welcome to the gambling parlor here on Dead Money Sports. It's the Week 16 NFL contest show where I'll be giving my 5 selections for the Week 16 Circa Million contest. Now, currently sitting at 40 and 35, we went 2 and 3 again. Another tough week. That's 4 consecutive 2 and 3 weeks where we had games that were decided by like the Detroit Lions losing by 7 when the line was 6. The Broncos surrendering the cover on a bogus, ridiculous delay a game penalty. So it's just been a tough 4 weeks. 40 and 35, we're in like 800th place. So unless we go 5 and 0, at least 4 and 1 this week, we're pretty much out of any possibility of making the top 100. So it's all or nothing this week. I will continue to do the show, and we will be doing a playoff show as well. But we are on life support after these last 4 weeks. It's just been tough. I mean, to be 5 games over 500 with 4 consecutive negative weeks, it just says something about where we were, where I was before this bad run with these 4 consecutive 2 and 3 weeks. If you just flip one game per week and we're sitting at 44 points, we are right at the top 100. That's just how difficult it is with this contest to try to navigate 18 weeks, 5 games per week. And you don't get to pick all, whatever 14 or 16 games and say, oh, look, I went 10 and 6 or whatever. You actually have to pick 5 games and stand by those 5 selections. So not the easiest contest in the world to win. That's why, you see different winners every year, and you see people who, were maybe did good the previous year struggle the next year because the swings in the NFL can go any way. Look at the game last night on Thursday Night Football. I like the Rams. The Rams were plus 1.5. They're up 16 points. Somehow they lose that game, but they lose by 1 point. If you took the Rams in the Circa contest, you actually covered the spread. The line was plus 1.5 for the Los Angeles Rams. I didn't use the Rams in the contest. I was close to using it, but I wanted to get more information regarding some of these other teams that I was considering, and I've had negative results using the Thursday night game, even though I've won 2 out of the 3 Thursday games I've used. We lost with Kansas City on Thanksgiving, but won with the Chargers, won with the Falcons last week. But the overall results of those weeks have been negative, as those have been 2 of the 4 2 and 3 weeks. So try to avoid using the Thursday games unless it's the last option. So didn't use the Rams, even though I gave them out on the early line show. Had you taken the 1.5 and not the money line, you would have won with the Rams. But what a game. I mean, what a game. Puka Nacua, JSN in the second half of that game with, I think he had 8 or 9 receptions for nearly 100 yards and the touchdown that tied or gave him an opportunity to tie the game. They still had to hit the 2-point conversion, and then I think he scored the touchdown. He scored the touchdown that they got the 2-point conversion to win the game in overtime. So just an incredible win for the Seahawks. They're in first place now in the NFC, leading the NFC West. San Francisco 49ers with a real opportunity this week to move up their chances to not only win the NFC West, but also get that number 1 seed in the NFC playoffs. So a lot of big games this week. And I've got my 5 selections for Week 16. Now, I am submitting this video on Friday morning. So there could be some tinkering between now and Saturday, but I do have one game that is played on Saturday because we got 2 Saturday games. We've got the early game between the Eagles and the Commanders, and then we've got the late game between the Packers and the Bears. So if we're going to use any games on Saturday, picks will have to be in before those games kick off. Eagles starts at 2 p.m. Pacific, which is before the deadline. at 4 p.m. Pacific to have your pick submitted here in Nevada. But so we're going to get into the picks that I like for week 16. And starting with the Saturday games, I am going with the Philadelphia Eagles minus 6.5. This line has now moved to 7. Pretty much a consensus 7 at minus 110, total 44.5. But I like the Eagles here. I know they're getting a lot of the tickets. They're getting 85% of the tickets and 78% of the money. That's been a bad spot to be in this year, as teams that are getting more than 60% of the overall tickets are, I believe, below 40%. I think they're actually around like 35% winners. So if you're on the public side, you've been just getting crushed all year. So this one could change between now and the start of Saturday. But I just think this is a much better Philadelphia Eagles team. I know they're missing Lane Johnson. They're missing Jalen Carter. But overall, they're just a much better team. They're very healthy on offense, minus their one offensive lineman in Lane Johnson. But they're just a much better team. This Washington Commanders offense is okay. Mariota's played okay, but he's a backup for a reason. Their defense is just not good. They're very old and very slow. They can't handle teams that have explosive offensive playmakers. And although Philadelphia has been kind of like a bipolar team all year, as they'll play one half of a game really good and then one half of a game not so good, they looked really good last week, beating up on a very bad Raiders team, shutting them out. I think that might be a confidence builder for them, and they're going to carry that into this. And this is a hat and t-shirt game for Philadelphia. They win this game, they lock up the NFC East division title. So this is a real opportunity for them to solidify their spot in the playoffs and maybe give themselves an opportunity to rest. They've got Buffalo on deck. Then they've got Washington one more time in Week 18. So they need to get this one out of the way now, because they could certainly lose that game against Buffalo, as Buffalo has a lot to play for, and they've got to go to Buffalo to play. And then, obviously, you don't want to go into Week 18 needing to beat a division rival who has nothing to lose, because they're going to play, they're going to play carefree and loose as a team with nothing to lose. They're going to go for it on fourth downs. They're going to they're going to try trick plays. They're going to do everything they can to ruin the Eagles' season. So Philadelphia is going to lock in their spot in the playoffs. This is where they're going to get it done. And I know 6.5 seems like a big number. We've got a lot of games this week that are on 3, 2.5s, pick'ems, 1.5s, and then there's a few bigger spreads, including a couple double-digit spreads. I don't think this is going to be as popular of a game, and if it is popular, I think Washington might even be the more popular side, or it'll be close. I just think a lot of people are going to gravitate towards those 3s, and they're also going to gravitate towards those big marquee games that we've got this week, because we've got, like I said, Packers-Bears. That's big time game for both teams. We've got Patriots and Ravens, big time game for both teams. Bucks and Panthers, big time game for both teams. Jags and Broncos, big time game. Pittsburgh and Steelers and Lions, big game. 49ers and Colts, big game. So a lot of people are out of the contention for the money, so they're going to just pick the marquee games that are going to be on television and want to bet those ones. And they're going to look for contrarian sides like the Commanders, plus the 6.5 here at home. Home dog, getting nearly a touchdown, but I believe Philadelphia is going to win this game. I don't think it's going to be a big win. I could see this being a 7-point victory, and it could certainly, be a very tight game, as Washington could potentially have an opportunity to backdoor this number late in this game. But I just like Philadelphia here. I think Washington, they've kind of checked out after that Denver game. That was they put all their, everything they had into that game, losing that difficult overtime game where they came back. lost on the 2-point try, and now they're kind of just going through the motions. I really think Washington is gaming towards their better draft pick. If it's a tight game, you'll see them play hard. But if the Eagles start to get out to a lead here, I could see Washington folding the tent up and not really looking to get any of their key players injured. And again, this defense is just not good for Washington. I think Philadelphia's offense is going to have an explosive game. I really think we might see Saquon Barkley break out. He's been pretty mediocre this year. A.J. Brown, Goddard, Devonta Smith. This Philadelphia team is stacked. They've got, Jahan Dotson as their number 3. So they've really got some good offensive playmakers. And on defense, outside of Jalen Carter being out, they're pretty healthy. Jordan Davis, Jalen Phillips, Braun, Dean, Nolan Smith, Jackson, Blankenship, Epps, Mitchell, and Cooper DeJean are all playing. So they've got essentially their starting defense all healthy. Meanwhile, you've got Washington dealing with injuries. But for the most part, they're pretty healthy as well. They're missing Laramie Tunsil as well, their left tackle, who that could be a big problem. But I just don't know if Debo and Terry McLaurin are really going to have the kind of games that they've had against some of these other defenses. I know they looked good against Denver, but a lot of that had to do with penalties. Denver's defense commits a lot of penalties, it seems like. So I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles -6.5. Again, there could be some tinkering in this one, as there are other games, other teams that I like. And if something changes my mind between now and submission time on Saturday, you can certainly join us here live for the line release show. And we will have our final 5 selections, as well as where we rank in the top 5, and what the 10 selections for the Circa Survivor game will be. That will be on Saturday, starting at 5:15 for the second game, the Chicago Bears Packers game. We will know by then the outcome of the Philadelphia Eagles game on Saturday, where we are standing going into that one. So join me on Saturday. But my first pick is going to be the Philadelphia Eagles -6.5. Next up, Miami Dolphins +4.5. Now, I was on Miami last week against Pittsburgh, and boy, was that not a good showing. And now they've finally benched Tua. Man, I was really disappointed in myself. I thought that was going to be a much closer game, and it seemed like it would be for a while. Miami's defense was playing really well for the first half of that game, and the offense just couldn't do anything. Tua could not complete a pass on third down if his life depended on it. He threw a terrible interception. The guy led the league in interceptions. He also leads the league in turnover-worthy plays, so it was about time they took him out. And this line just moved dramatically because of Quinn Ewers, the backup quarterback, being announced. But I don't see how he could be much worse than Tua. Like, what is the major, other than he's a rookie, how much worse can this guy be when Tua leads the league in interceptions and turnover-worthy plays? They still have a great running game. They still have Achane. They still have Jalen Walker, I think is the other guy, and then Ollie Gordon. They still got Waddle. They still have Darren Waller. So they've got playmakers. They've got Washington. So they've got guys on offense. And the defense has not been playing half bad. It just seemed like they got bullied by Pittsburgh in that cold weather. And I think what you saw was a team that the defense was feeling gassed because they were just on the field so much, because the Miami offense couldn't do anything. Now, was the cold weather a factor in Pittsburgh? Possibly. They are now going to be playing in Miami, taking on the Bengals. The Bengals have nothing to play for. They looked horrible against Baltimore. Joe Burrow looked completely out of it. Jamar Chase had an okay game, but turnovers in that game really cost them. Penalties. The penalties were just outrageous for Cincinnati in that game. How many false starts and illegal formations did they have that negated positive plays? And I just don't know if you're going to get any type of motivation from Cincinnati. It's not like there's even spoiler, potential because Miami's eliminated from the playoffs as well. But at least Miami's playing at home in front of their home crowd, in front of their fans. They've got this rookie quarterback. Normally, when a rookie quarterback's playing in their first game, the rest of the team tends to step up their play a little bit because they want to get the victory for the young guy. And these Miami players, they do have something to play for. Are they going to be on the team next year? Are they going to be free agents that are going to get signed by another team next year? What does their future hold? A lot of that rides on the tape that they're going to put out over the next couple of weeks. Are they willing to compete when they know there's not a lot to play for or anything to play for in that matter? Or are they going to just lay down and get run over? I don't think so. I think the Miami Dolphins will be able to run the ball on this Cincinnati Bengals defense that has not been good all year. They had a couple of decent games, but they got really gashed by the Baltimore Ravens. It just wasn't a very good performance by them, and I just don't think they have much to play for. And being on the road in Miami, it's kind of like a vacation for them. A lot of these guys are not going to want to go into the offseason hurt, so I don't think you're going to get a very good performance by the Cincinnati Bengals. I think this number is way too high at plus 4.5. I think the adjustment by the lines makers because of the announcement of the quarterback situation is just way overblown. Miami at home getting 4.5 points. I think they win this game straight up. They don't even need the points. As I always say, if I think a team's going to win, then I got to think they're going to cover. If I think Miami's going to cover, then I got to think they're going to win. I think they can win this game straight up. So give me the Miami Dolphins plus 4.5. This also probably won't be a very popular play in the contest, as again, most people are going to gravitate towards the primetime games as their picks for this week. The number 3 selection, Dallas Cowboys minus 2.5 at home, taking on the Los Angeles Chargers. Chargers have won consecutive games against the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. Well, I'm sorry, the Philadelphia Eagles first, and then the Kansas City Chiefs. I really think that game in Kansas City was like their Super Bowl almost. Obviously Patrick Mahomes going down, not great. Certainly had a effect on the outcome of that game. But though the Kansas City Chiefs have been the thorn in the side of a lot of teams, including all the teams in the AFC West. So for them to slay Goliath, I really think this is a spot where they could have a letdown. Now, they didn't look great in either one of those games, winning against Philly and winning against Kansas City. But somehow they were able to pull out 3-point victories, even with the mediocre offensive performances that they've had in both of those games. Now they've got to face a Cowboys offense that's really high-powered in the passing game. I think CeeDee Lamb and Pickens are going to have big games. Lamb is back practicing, so it looks like he's going to play this week. Obviously, we got to keep an eye on that. If he's out, this could change as if they don't have their full receiving core. I don't like the Cowboys nearly as much, but if they do, I really like Dallas here. I don't think the injuries for the Dallas Cowboys defense are going to be as big a factor as they were last week because the Chargers offense just isn't all that good. Their offensive line isn't very good. They rate as one of the worst in the league. They can run the ball pretty decently, but, are they going to be able to keep up with Dallas in this offense? I don't think so. I think Dallas is a much better team at home. Dak has been a much better quarterback at home. They do still have an outside chance of making the playoffs. Now, obviously, if Philly wins, then they have to win because they need Philadelphia. Actually, they need Philadelphia to lose all three. So if Philadelphia wins on Saturday, I believe Dallas is officially eliminated from making the playoffs. So this could have an adverse effect on their motivation going into that game. I do like Philly on Saturday, so this could correlate with one another. Again, there could be some tinkering between now and Saturday as we look deeper into some of these games. But as it stands right now, I like the Dallas Cowboys. Now, again, we have to keep an eye on the injury report and see who's actually going to be in for both teams, who's going to be out. and how much of how motivated is Dallas really going to be on Sunday if they're 100% eliminated from the playoffs. So we'll know more by Saturday what the injury report is going to look like, and obviously what the outcome of that game is. But the picks will have been submitted by then. So definitely need to keep an eye on the injury report for Dallas. They've got some secondary injuries, so that is a bit concerning for me. But I just don't know if the Chargers really have what it takes to stop this Cowboys passing game if they have both Lamb and Pickens in the lineup. So right now, as it stands, this is still a potential changed spot here, but I do like the Dallas Cowboys. -2.5. And again, I don't think this is going to be a very popular side in the contest, as we're going to see a lot of people gravitating towards all those games with lines of 3. My fourth selection, the Detroit Lions, -7 at home, taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers got the big win last week on primetime against Miami. Looked really good against a very bad Miami passing attack. Tua just looked completely out of his element. He didn't look very engaged in that game, especially towards the end when they're losing and he's just over there, laughing it up with his teammates like they didn't just get eliminated from the playoffs and their season's officially over. So what are we going to get from Pittsburgh this week? Detroit, they lost their game against the Rams, though, a team that is, arguably one of the best teams in the league, both on offense and defense. And they had both of their stud wide receivers for the majority of that game. They got some favorable calls. It's still a tight game. Detroit just didn't have no answers for the passing attack, but that's not how the Steelers operate. They're not a deep throwing team. They have to throw underneath, and they have to throw quickly because Rodgers wants to get the ball out of his hands quick. So I don't think they're going to be able to exploit the injuries to the secondary for Detroit, and I just don't think that the Steelers are going to have much answers for the Detroit offense. I really think they're going to be able to run the ball and pass the ball with ease against this this Pittsburgh Steelers defense. Looks like Watt may still be out. Herbig might still be out. So they're going to be missing some of their key guys. And I just don't, they're playing indoors in Detroit. They don't have the weather element. They don't have the fan base element. I know 7 seems like a big number, but Detroit usually wins and wins by margin. I think they're just a much better offensive team than Pittsburgh. I don't think Pittsburgh's going to be able to keep up with the scores of the Detroit Lions offense. The speed on their offense is just unmatched. It's just hard to match up with the Detroit Lions and their offensive, firepower that they have. When you have Williams, St. Brown, Gibbs, and Montgomery, then you add in Tesla and Khalif Raymond. You've just got too many guys, too many options, and I think the Detroit Lions pass rush could rattle Rodgers and maybe create a turnover or two. They're not very good at running the ball, so I don't think they're going to have much success against Detroit, who's actually been pretty good against the run on defense. And -7, I think a lot of people are going to want to take Pittsburgh here after what they saw on the primetime game on Monday Night Football and the fact that Detroit lost to the Rams in that game last week as well. A lot of people are off Detroit because they haven't been covering the spread in their last few games, but I think this is a game that they get right, and they need this. They cannot lose this game. If they lose this game, they are all but eliminated from the playoffs. There's almost no shot they win the NFC North title because you've got Chicago and Green Bay ahead of them, and one of those, Chicago, could potentially take an even bigger lead in the division. If they win, Green Bay could vault over Chicago but still be ahead of Detroit. So Detroit needs everything they've got to compete with the 2 NFC West teams that are going to make the wild card, because one team is going to be more than likely the number 1 seed as it sits right now at Seattle. And the other 2 teams, the Rams and 49ers, as it sits right now, are going to be in the wild card. And obviously those teams could switch, but those 3 teams are all going to be in the playoffs. So 2 wild card spots are going to be taken up by NFC West teams. That leaves one spot for Detroit. So they have no margin for error. This is going to be the best performance by the offense you're going to see. I think they play really well. I think they win this game by 10 points. I want to say or 10 or 11. I really have it somewhere around like 35-24 for the Lions. I just think they're going to outscore Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh will not be able to keep up. And if Detroit can just shut them down, maybe create some turnovers, stop them in the red zone, hold them to field goals, it immediately changes the dynamic of that game. So I'm going to go with the Detroit Lions -7 as my fourth pick. And the last one, and one that could potentially be moved, is the Baltimore Ravens -3 at home, taking on the New England Patriots. Patriots are dealing with a bunch of injuries on defense right now. We need to keep an eye on that and see exactly who's in, who's out. I know Spillane has been already ruled out, but you've also got Landry questionable, Ellis questionable, Carlton Davis questionable, Marcus Jones questionable. They've already lost Milton Williams, who was a key to their defensive run stopping. So they've really lost some key pieces along this defensive front and in their second level, which wasn't great to begin with. Now you've got a Baltimore team coming in here off that big win in Cincinnati. They've got some injuries of their own, but we need to keep an eye. Is Van Noy going to play? Is Awuzie going to play? Those are the two big ones. And then obviously Ronnie Stanley and Linderbaum, their offensive center, their center and left tackle. But I just really like Baltimore's shot here. They're at home. What's the weather going to be like? Is it going to be cold? If it's going to be cold, that's not really the greatest for Lamar Jackson, as he hasn't been the best in cold weather games. But I just really think you're going to see the better version of Baltimore. And again, New England, we keep saying it over and over and over again. They've played a very favorable schedule. So they've beaten up on a lot of teams that had below NFL level quarterback play. So they've really been fortunate in a lot of these games. And if you look at some of them, they've certainly been lucky or fortunate in the outcome of some of these games. They lost against Buffalo last week after getting out to a big lead. That it was a weird way they got that one with turnovers and big plays. I mean, if you watch that game outside of that big run they had in the second half, they really didn't do anything against Buffalo's defense. And I don't know if that's a sign of things to come. But I just think Baltimore's the better side here. They're at home. It's a 3-point spread. So I think this could be a very popular side as people look to fade New England. And that's the only reason why I might decide to replace this game with another option just to avoid being in the top 5 consensus. Because where we are right now, we need to go 5-0. But 5-0 with teams that are not in the popular selections give us a much better opportunity of gaining ground on the leaders. But at the same time, it's more important to go 5-0, even if the teams are popular, than it is to worry about leverage at this point. So we're going with the Baltimore Ravens as our 5th and final pick for Week 16 of the Circa Million contest. Again, this one could potentially be swapped out, so be sure to join the live show on Saturday during the Chicago Bears-Packers game for the NFL selection show, where I will release my final 5 picks as well as where we are in the top 5 and the Circa Survivor selections for the final 10 entries. But so our Week 16 NFL contest show selections are the Philadelphia Eagles -6.5, the Miami Dolphins +4.5, the Dallas Cowboys -2.5, the Detroit Lions -7, and the Baltimore Ravens -3. We've got 4 home teams, 1 away team, Philadelphia being on the road in Washington, and I believe we've got 4 favorites, and 4 favorites and 1 dog, Miami being the 1 home underdog that we are taking with Quinn Ewers. against the Cincinnati Bengals. Well, there you have it, folks. That is my 5 selections for Week 16 of the Circa Millions contest. Want to thank everybody for watching and joining me this week. Hopefully you have some winning bets. Let's make some money out there. Hopefully get that 5-0 and keep ourselves at least in a fighting chance for a paid position in the Millions contest. I'm looking to finish with the best possible record, we could have. I mean, 55-35 wouldn't be the worst way to finish a year. It'd be pretty nice. But to everyone out there, enjoy the football. Let's watch some college and pro games and take care of yourselves.